F22, found out last week my first baby's gender, and it's a little girl. My family are excited about I decided to do a small gender reveal over the Easter weekend. I had this planned for Saturday, so a few days before, I asked a small local business if she could please make 12 cupcakes with pink and blue icing on top, and pink icing in the middle. She agreed and said they would be ready to collect Friday evening. The plan was to pick the cakes up Friday, invite friends and family over Saturday and give some guests a cupcake which would reveal the gender. I only invited a few guests as my apartment is fairly small, and I didn't want to do a large gender reveal anyway. Just something cute and fun. Plus, everyone loves cupcakes, so Friday evening came. The small business owner, Claire, gave me her address to collect the cakes from. Said they would cost £25 and they are ready to collect whenever. I drove to her apartment and knocked on the door. She greeted me there with the box of cupcakes and they looked amazing. They were exactly how I imagined them and thanked her for them. She gave me the box, but just as she did, her large pet dog came running up to me, barking, and jumped at me, knocking the box of cupcakes all over the floor. Claire apologized and shut the dog inside. He was still barking and jumping at the door. She said it's because he gets excited when people come and visit, but he wouldn't have hurt me as he's friendly. At this point I didn't know the damage to the cupcakes as the box landed upside down. I picked it up and the cakes were ruined. The icing had smashed all over the box and some cakes had spilled out onto the ground. Claire looked horrified as I understand she spent a few hours making them for me. She apologized and said she could remake them for free, but they wouldn't be ready until Sunday. I said unfortunately I am expecting my guests tomorrow and Sunday is no good, as I already had other plans. I explained I wouldn't be paying for these cupcakes as they were inedible and ruined by her dog. We agreed payment upon receiving the goods, and since I never received them, I wouldn't be paying. She said that I should still pay as she had to buy ingredients for the cakes and the costs of eggs has gone up, meaning she would be out of pocket. I said if she had control of her dog, then they wouldn't have been dropped and I am sorry, but again, I wouldn't be paying. I got in my car and left without the cupcakes. I still had guests attend on Saturday. I announced the gender in person, rather than with some cupcakes, but it was still nice spending time with my friends and family. My family were all happy, but my sister-in-law said I should have still paid for the cupcakes as she accepted it was her fault, and offered to remake them for me. I personally don't think I should have had to pay for them, but now I am feeling slightly guilty as I understand it's a small business and a loss of profit would affect her a lot harder than a larger business. AITA. Throwaway BC. He spends a lot of time on Reddit. This is the most ridiculous argument I've had with a grown man. I, 28F, have been with my boyfriend, 36F, for a year and we moved in together about 4 months ago. One of the first things I noticed about my boyfriend was that he never really ate vegetables. He would sometimes eat them if we were out at a restaurant and they came as part of his meal. But he never ate them when I cooked for him. Originally I thought that maybe my cooking was the problem, so I asked him if he enjoyed my food and he told me he loves my cooking. On nights I didn't cook for him, he ate exclusively frozen foods and never ate the vegetables in those either. Naturally, he has some health issues. Vitamin deficiencies, etc. He had phrased it to me as if he was somehow just genetically unlucky. I believed it for a while, BCIDK, how that stuff works, but eventually it became clear to me it's because he voluntarily eats a vegetable like once a month. 6 months ago I started hiding vegetables in my cooking. If I was making pasta I'd put the vegetables in. I'd usually put in for myself, then take half out and blend it so he wouldn't notice the vegetable chunks and then tell him I'd just scooped the veg out of his portion. This happens more often now we live together because I do all of the cooking. He's been telling me a lot lately. He's been feeling a lot better the past few months and has even had his doctor reduce the dosage of some of his medications and he hasn't had to take his multivitamin in weeks. I kept my mouth shut because I'm just glad he's feeling better and it really does me no harm to hide the veg in his food. Yesterday, I was making one of our regular pasta meals. It's one that's very easy to hide at least 4 veggies in, and I was about to blend my boyfriend's portion when the blender died mid-blend. I had to serve it in all its veg chunk glory. My boyfriend refused to eat the vegetables, but when he tasted the sauce he said it's weird how it tastes the exact same even though this one has veg in it. So, I confessed. He screamed at me and called me a controlling bitch and said that it's none of my business if he thinks vegetables don't do anything. I pointed out he said he felt better. He said his health was none of my business and that I'm a controlling, judgy and stormed out of our apartment to stay with his sister. His sister texted me to say he's fine but she agrees with him. My friends agree it's ridiculous that he didn't eat veg but agree I'm being an AITA? I hosted a family dinner over the weekend. My brother brought my nephews, 4 and 8, over as well. I used to wear my engagement ring all the time, but lately I keep it in my walk-in closet and mainly wear it for special occasions. While I was cleaning up the dinner table, my nephews went to go play while the adults were still in the outdoor patio, outdoor kitchen area. My brother was not supervising his kids. During this time, my nephews went into the master bedroom without anyone knowing and started playing with everything, including my engagement ring. When we came to look for them, they panicked because they know they aren't supposed to be upstairs, ran into the master bathroom and flushed my ring. We called a plumber in case it was somehow in the U-trap of the toilet and not actually gone. But nope. Unfortunately, it was gone for good. We still had the original receipt, so I called my brother. I emailed him a scanned copy as proof of the cost and asked him to reimburse me for the ring my nephew flushed. Immediately he started calling me an asshole because we were family and he was just a child. He has refused to repay the cost of my ring. I told him I will be taking him to court for this and now my entire family is blowing up my phone saying family shouldn't sue each other and just let it go. Edit. No, the ring was not insured. I found out the day after my nephew flushed it. My husband says he forgot and in the end never actually insured it. Edit 2. My brother says he does not have the money to repay even $100 per month and has refused any kind of repayment plan. He said I live in a nice enough house and if I want a replacement, I should just sell my car. Edit 3. My brother, to this day, has not truly apologized. It was a Canadian sorry. Sorry, not sorry. He said kids will do what is normal for kids, and they shouldn't be held responsible for a ring. They were supposed to supervise their kids outdoors with the rest of the family while I was busy cleaning up. Edit 4. I don't believe for a second my brother and his wife cannot pay for the cost of my engagement ring. They don't make anything near my husband but they have a combined income of around $250K. They don't pay rent or anything because my parents gifted them their old house valued at $3.5 million in Toronto, CA back when I bought my parents a new home years ago. There is no mortgage on the home my brother lives in. The only things my brother and his wife would have to pay for is the cost of raising their children, normal bills, and food. I feel so distraught because my ring holds great sentimental value. I've already been speaking with my husband's family lawyer, but at this point, I'm ready to hire a PI to find out if they really don't have the money. My sister, cousin and a couple friends came over last night after work. My sister brought a friend of hers I'd only met a few times that I've never had an issue with. At one point I went to the bathroom, and the ladies were in the living room, calmly enjoying wine. When I came out, my sister's friend was in the kitchen, arguing with my son. I asked her what she was doing. She said my son went into the kitchen to get food, and she told him to wait until I came out of the bathroom to ask me for permission. I stared at her for a second and then said, "Who the fuck are you? You don't live here." "He does." "Who are you to tell him he can't go in his own kitchen?" She looked surprised and said she was trying to be helpful. I repeated my question of why she thought it was okay to tell someone they can't use their own kitchen when she's a guest in someone else's house. She dodged the question and then brought up that she's a teacher, which isn't even relevant, and sometimes kids try to get around rules. I asked her what that has to do with anything. I then asked who even gave her permission to go in my kitchen. She said she followed my son in. I said, "So you think my son needs permission to go in his own kitchen, but you can go wherever you like in my house without invitation? So you have more rights here than he does?" She said she didn't feel welcome anymore and was leaving. She went back in the living room, grabbed her bag and walked out. My sister asked what happened, and I explained that she had a disagreement with my son. My cousin and some of the other ladies said they thought it was strange she followed him into the kitchen and had been wondering why she did that, and thought her motive was weird as hell. My sister and a couple other ladies said her behavior was perfectly normal and I was unnecessarily hostile to her. My cousin said, "But why would you confront a child you don't know instead of saying something to the aunt who's right here? That's so weird." Everyone but my sister acknowledged that part was weird, and we all moved on. Later, my sister confronted me privately and said she was upset I chased off her friend. She said she really likes this woman, and that I was way over the top in the way I spoke to her. I can be a little extra when it comes to defending my kid, so was I an asshole? Edit. Thank you for the gold and platinum, everyone. I had a thesis practice defense today and had no idea this would blow up. Using a throwaway since I post on some relevant subs from time to time. My brother-in-law is 32, wife and I are 25, and while I don't doubt that some of his issues are real, autism, ADHD, set point obesity, it is my distinct impression that he exploits people's perception of these things to be a controlling prick. In the family, saying such things is completely forbidden, however. We offered to take my Mill and Phil out for Easter dinner so no one has to cook. The timing offered was strategic since we knew Bill had planning on watching TikTok live stream of some 19-year-old influencer who is blowing up right now, but I guess either he got the time wrong or she canceled early, so my heart sank when he was coming along because I knew there was going to be drama. We went to a place famous for bar food and I ordered nachos. My wife begged me to order something else, but she wasn't direct with me about the problem and I didn't get her hints. As soon as I took my first bite or nachos, my Bill started shrieking like a child and throwing a little tantrum that she crunch was killing him, and he's going to lose it because black olives don't belong on nachos because they are from Spain, not Mexico. My wife, Mill and Phil, told me I really screwed up and that I was making him uncomfortable. In a moment of pure honesty, I told them that the list of not allows around Brian is so long and tucking ridiculous that I can't keep up. My wife said she tried to tell me. I said, "No, you didn't tell me. You pussyfooted around it like we do every time this creep ruins a family function." Bill, Phil and Mill got up and left, leaving us with the bill, and needless to say, things between me and my wife have been tense ever since and we really haven't spoken. I am absolutely the asshole for my choice of words after he freaked out, and I get that, but I also think things needed to be said. But my question is, am I the asshole for ordering the nachos? My wife says I should have known since she's sure she's told me, and I had to have noticed that they never have chips around because his misophonia can't handle the crunch. AITA here? I, 29F, started working at a new company 8 months ago. I was headhunted specifically for the role I have, which gave me enough power to negotiate my contract like I wanted. One of the things I managed to get was a clause that prohibited my employer from contacting me outside work hours. If it is a true emergency, then they can send me an email. Otherwise, they can't even send me a text. Furthermore, I have a separate work phone that I shut down at 5 on the dot, then turn on at 9 a.m. Another thing is that I don't work OT. I am very efficient, so my work is done by 3 p.m., 5 p.m. if we have an emergency. I also take my whole lunch break outside the office, and my coffee breaks away from my desk. My coworkers are not the same. They tend to socialize during work hour and have work left for afterwards. They sometimes ask me to help, but I always decline by saying that I have plans. I don't go into details, I just say that I have plans. These plans are 99% of the time just include going home, reading books, or sleeping. But that is my personal time. Monday, a coworker asked me if I could stay a bit later to help her out. Apparently she was late with some essential work, but had to be done by that night, because she had to attend her daughter's recital at 6. I said that I was sorry, but that I had plans. It was a nice day, so instead of going home, I just went to a park to read while breathing some fresh air. Brought some fruit and bubble tea, and made a picnic out of it. My coworker found me there, and she was pissed. She said that I could have helped her if I didn't have plans. I said that I do have plans, this impromptu picnic. She said that it wasn't as important as her daughter's recital. So I said that for me, it was even more important than her daughter's recital. She called me an and some of my friends agree. So AITA? Edit. So I log off for a few hours, log back in expecting Abe 100 comments. I am blown, and thank everyone for their judgment, NTA, YTA or ESH. Now for some important things. How did she find me in the park? The park is small, near her daughter's school. I didn't know that, and I was sitting closer to the street. She was driving by looking for parking when she spotted me and decided to confront me. I guess she wasn't that late for the recital. We are not on the same team. She asked for help because she knew I know how to do her tasks, not because we are on the same team working the same project. For people who are worried about my career, thank you, but don't worry. I am not planning to climb the corporate ladder. All I want is a job that pays enough to live a comfortable middle-class life. I invested in a bit of a niche, rare skill set, and it paid me back with a six-figure salary and being very sought after. All I have to do is to maintain my skill set and keep up with the times, and I will be golden. I have had offers from all around my state, and a few more. For those who say that I am a miserable loner, I have a very fulfilling personal life, with a tight-knit family, and a great friend circle. I just prefer to not mix work and personal life, and that means no befriending coworkers. Made that mistake early on, but I learned from it. And lastly, for those saying an impromptu picnic is not plans, enjoying my personal time is and has always been my plans. I, 27F, am getting married in a few months to my fiancé, 28M. We have been planning our dream wedding for over a year, and everything is finally falling into place. However, there is one issue that has been causing quite a bit of controversy in our family. My nephew, 18M, James, has a service dog, Max, for his anxiety and panic attacks. Max is a well-trained and well-behaved dog, and he has been a great help to James over the years. However, I am severely allergic to dogs, to the point where I could have a severe reaction if I am around them for an extended period of time. This is something my family is well aware of. When we sent out the invitations for our wedding, we made it clear that there would be a strict no pets policy, due to my allergies. James and his parents approached us and asked if Max could be an exception, as he is a service dog and not just a pet. They assured us that Max would be on his best behavior, and that he would not cause any problems. As much as I understand the importance of Max to James, first had to say no. My wedding day is supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, and I do not want to risk having a severe allergic reaction during the ceremony or reception. I explained this to James and his parents, and first offered to help find alternative accommodations for Max during the wedding. However, my decision has caused a lot of controversy in the family. Some of my relatives believe that I am being selfish and inconsiderate, while others understand my point of view and support my decision. James is understandably upset, and first feel terrible about the situation. So, AITA for not allowing my nephew to bring his service dog to my wedding? I 21F work as a babysitter, nanny while I finish my credits for my early child education. I'm very well known in my area and am professional, and have different ads for myself. I get multiple jobs a week. I don't normally babysit for family, but I agreed to a few days ago. The child was 4, and with that age I usually charge $15 an hour, $200 a day. For this particular family member I agreed to do it for $150 a day. It was 2 hours in and my relative told me she could only pay me $50 to $80, and that she hoped I understood. I told her I didn't understand because I told her up front already, and that I even lowered my rate for her. This is what I live off of. I missed out on other opportunities that would pay way more, so I can't have her low-ball me. She began ignoring me, so I told her if she continued I would drop her off at another relative's. She continued to ignore me, so I dropped her off at this relative's sister's house, who agreed to watch her. Within a few minutes I got a text saying how unprofessional I was, and how dare I do that she's family and I was being extremely selfish. This is how I make money for a living, and I gave her multiple warnings and we agreed on a price beforehand. My ex-wife and I share 2 children. Our daughter is 13 and our son is 11. She was remarried for 7 years and has 2 children with her late husband. He died a week ago. My kids were not close to the man. He was a hardass and the kids found him overly strict, and I agree, and they didn't like being around him. The relationship at best was strained, but they confided in me over the years that they hoped their mom would leave them. She loved the guy though, and when he died last week she was a mess. Our kids were with me when it happened and she wanted to see them, so I brought them over. They comforted their mom and she told them, repeatedly, it was okay to cry, it was okay to miss him, that they were all going to miss him. The kids said nothing. She kept repeating it. I told her I thought the kids got it. When the kids saw their mom again, she was halfway through planning the funeral and asked if they would be able to do a reading or something for the funeral. The kids said they wouldn't be able to. She was with them a while and then said, since they weren't crying much, maybe they could take a reading and see how they did on the day. Kids told me about it when I spoke to them and they asked if I could talk to their mom. I told my ex not to force the reading. The funeral day came. I showed up for my kids. They were hanging back with me a lot, and they told me their mom kept watching them, which I witnessed myself. For the funeral I sat behind them since she wouldn't let them sit with me. She told us that all her husband's kids should be seated up front, and I didn't have the heart to tell her they weren't his kids on the day of her husband's funeral when she was such a mess. So I bit my tongue and supported my kids. It was after the service when everything went down. The kids came to sit in my car for a while and we were laughing about something. Ex came over and asked how they could be laughing when they had just buried their stepdad, and why did they show no grief at all over the loss of the man who was part of their lives for 7 years. She said it was almost like they were glad he was gone. She told them they should have been looking way more somber after he passed. She told them if they really didn't care, they clearly needed help because her husband loved them. I stepped in and told her to lay off the kids, they were kids. She told me to stop interfering in how she parents our kids. My daughter ended up getting mad at her mom and told her she wasn't sad he was gone, he was an ass and she had always hoped she would leave him. She stormed off and my son followed. Ex was going crazy and I yelled and told her to cut it out and to stop trying to make our kids perform a grieving routine over her husband. I told her they were trying to support her and she should be proud of them for that. She started yelling back at me about what an asshole I am, so I walked away. AITA? ETA more details on why my kids had issues with him. He spoke to them like they were soldiers and he was their commanding officer. That was how he spoke to his own kids too. Barking orders at them. Also very strict on how they sat and stood, posture. Was very tough on them regarding what extracurricular activities they wanted to do. He had his own ideas of what kids should do, and my son especially wasn't interested in the sport aspect, and that was not what my ex's late husband liked to hear. He also didn't believe kids should be helped with homework beyond kindergarten and did not like how the kids would react to seeing me during exchanges. He believed kids should act civilized at all times, and them taking off running and jumping into my arms was something he did not approve of and said it to them, though not in front of me after I told him it was what we do. So, I got recently engaged to my fiancé Michael. We don't live together, but we agreed to move together soon. He has a 16-year-old daughter. I gotta be honest, she seems quite stubborn and her own dad struggles to get her to listen. I'm not close with her, which is something I know I need to work on, and I foe my best. However, her pranks make it difficult for me to maintain a good relationship with her. She loves to prank and her prank can be a lot sometimes, though there's sometimes some humor there. I tried to laugh it off every time she'd prank me, but it's gotten too much lately. My final straw was on her dad's birthday. I came to spend the day and have celeb story dinner. My future in-laws and relatives came as well. All went well until dinner. We were about to have dinner, and once we walked into the dining table, I was stunned to see my underwear hanging on a hanger in the corner. My stepdaughter looked at me, smiled and said, "You forgot these last time you visited and I didn't want you to forget them again, so I hung them here." I was absolutely astonished, speechless even. Michael was shocked and my in-laws and other guests, including Michael's friends, were staring at me in awkward silence. I felt so humiliated, especially when some of the men laughed. Next thing I knew, I yelled at her and was grabbing my stuff about to leave, and Michael and his daughter telling me to calm down, it was just a prank. I left immediately and turned my phone off. Mivael left many texts and voice messages calling me hypersensitive and claiming I ruined his birthday by walking out over a prank. We argued later and he said his daughter is a teenager and it's what they do, so my reaction was over the top and ruined the birthday for him and his family. I haven't spoken to him in days and he's expecting I visit to apologize for walking out and also yelling at his daughter. AITA? Did I overreact? My 27M wife, 27F, is very into feminism and I often joke about it and she does not seem to mind. Like I believe in equality and all and don't criticize her view or anything. My wife was having car troubles with the engine of her old car and her mechanic convinced her they were going to get worse and advised her to get another car. I thought it could do more years, but she still decided to sell it without getting a second opinion. Her mechanic is actually a woman and she trusts her for that reason and she thinks she is a great mechanic. My wife sold her old car and bought a used one that was much newer from a lady. She bought it because she fell in love with the color and thought it looked cute. It is a fine car and I have no issues with it, but it just seemed like an odd reason to get a car to me. The car has an AWD badge on it and as we were driving back after she bought it, she asked me why it says AWD. I joked and said it was something they put on and it is a club called Association of Women Drivers where women get together to talk about their cars and car troubles and help each other. I thought she would realize it was a joke, but she took me seriously, so I didn't say anything and tried not to laugh. She said she would consider joining it. When we got home, she Googled it and realized I was joking, but she got really upset and called me an ah. I don't get why she is so offended by such a small joke, as I would have told her eventually what it means. My husband and I've been married for 6 years, at least 5 of those have been almost no contact with his mother. I don't know the whole story, but his dad passed away when he was young, and his mom remarried a man who was horribly abusive to him up until he moved out. He tried to tell his mother for years, but she just wouldn't believe it. It got to the point that for his own well-being he just couldn't be around her anymore. This week, after years of silence, she shows up at our doorstep. She said she'd tried to call, but we have her blocked, so obviously it didn't go through. She was in tears and started crying about how her husband had trashed her house and left her, and she realized her son was telling the truth, how she didn't have anyone, all that shit. She begged to talk to my husband. I said that she had some fucking balls coming to our house to cry after throwing her son to the side for a disgusting predator until that stopped working for her. I said she made her bed, now is the time to lay in it, and it wasn't going to be in my fucking house. She was almost hysterical when she left. Her coming to the door put my husband in a panic attack. He's been too depressed to get out of bed since. I really don't care for that woman, but when I replay it in my head I feel absolutely terrible. Berating someone in tears never feels good, and now I think I might have just made things worse. Should I have done something different? Was that a dick move? My boyfriend, Jake, M29, and I, F27, have been seeing together for a few months now. Dave is Mexican-American, but he's currently working in Berlin, where I am from. I've heard him speak Spanish on the phone many times and inquired about this, but he's never asked me if I speak it, and it just felt weird to mention it when he didn't seem to care enough to ask if I spoke any other languages apart from German and English. Because of that, he's never really found out I speak Spanish, despite me quite literally watching a telenovela before bed quite a few times. It kind of stings, but it is what it is. I never eavesdropped on by his conversations though. His friend from the US was visiting him and I was meant to joking them for dinner. When I did, they were speaking in Spanish and his friend asked, in Spanish, if I speak it or should they switch to English only. My boyfriend said, again, in Spanish, nah, she's a gringa, she doesn't speak it. Which kind of annoyed me because he never even asked to. I replied to his friend, in Spanish, try it, I do in fact speak it. Jake got angry and red. He didn't say anything in front of his friend, but on the way home, after dropping his friend off at the hotel, he started shouting how I humiliated him and that I'm asshole for hiding it. I told him it's best if he went to his flat and we would talk when he calms down. He hasn't changed his mind and still thinks I'm an asshole and I should apologize. I told my friends and they're split on it and I'm not sure anymore. Am I the asshole for not telling him? AITA? My fiancée is pregnant and when we found out it's a boy we decided to make him my junior. My name starts with the letter D, so his name is gonna be D______ junior. My fiancée said she can agree to name him my name but doesn't want to add the junior on the birth certificate because she hates the nickname, DJ, which my family has already started calling him. I got mad and said in order for him to be a real junior he has to actually have junior in the name and to get over the nickname. I think having the option for both a full name and a nickname is nice, but she's refusing to include the junior to the name and said I am not compromising. She got upset herself and said that she already agreed to make him a junior by using my name and I am an asshole. I told her she's the asshole since she doesn't want to include the junior all over a dumb nickname she doesn't have to use. AITA? Long-time lurker, first-time poster and sorry for mistakes. English is not my native tongue, so I, 29F, have designed all the wedding dresses for my cousins, siblings, and aunts for the past decade. When my eldest sister, 35F, got engaged at 24, she asked me to design her dress since I'm passionate about design and she always loved my style. Her dress was a knockout. Everyone loved it, and ever since whenever one of our relatives announces their engagement, they ask if I can design their dress for them. I've always said yes because I absolutely love doing it, just so much fun. On to the issue. My cousin, 23F, is getting married next February and called me up to see when we could meet so she could share her ideas for her dress and I can start designing it. I do not like this cousin at all. Her parents spoiled her beyond rotten. I decided to still meet with her though and see if anything has changed since she's now an adult. She immediately shows me some photos of wedding dresses by Sarah Burton and tells me she wants something exactly like the pictures. I try to suggest a change in neckline or color and she shuts it down and tells me she wants exactly that. I told her I would not be making her dress as I love designing clothes that embody their wearer and suit them, not rip off others' designers so she can look fancy in a knockoff. Some of my family and especially her and her parents are beyond upset and have been blowing up my phone because of broken tradition and my baby cousin's heart because she's been looking forward to having me make her wedding dress for years now. I feel kinda bad, but at the same time she's taking the fun and bonding out of designing a wedding dress. I, 25M, live in a place where it was warm enough out that a pool party was mildly feasible. Cold in the water but great otherwise. Invited a bunch of friends over to my house. We swam, grilled, watched the Masters, until the rain delay, drank. It was a great time except for something I may have come across as an asshole for. I kinda hate dogs and don't want them anywhere around me. I'm definitely not letting it in my house. My friends know this, my girlfriend knows this. A buddy's new girl, who I had never met, came to the party. But she brought her 15 to 20 pound dog. She introduces herself and I just pause and go, yeah, that thing is not coming inside. She goes, I'll take it through the side gate. I shoot that down too. She asks what she should do with her dog. I just say take it home. I tell her I hate dogs and that my buddy should have told you before you got this far. My buddy chimes in and says it's well behaved, she would hold it for most of the time and he didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. I'm appalled, and just say you should have known better. I say sorry, I'm not letting it in and it's probably best to take it home. We stood in awkward silence and they left and didn't come back. My buddy was texting me, calling me an asshole, complaining I wasn't friendly at all and how rude I was. I'm not letting a dog in my house, I don't care who you are. Am I the asshole for that? My girlfriend, Abby, F31, and I, M33, have been together for a few months and this Easter, I was going to introduce her to my family. We haven't moved in together yet. Abby is quite smart, she has a PhD and works in her field. I only have a BA, so you can imagine my surprise when hot and smart woman wanted to date me. Anyway, I digress. Abby's passion is writing, although she's never allowed me to read anything she wrote. She dreams of writing a book and says she's practicing and trying to draft things. One day, I was staying over and fell asleep and she went to her office to write. When I woke up, I peered over her shoulder when she was writing and saw names that sounded familiar. I asked her about this and sure enough, she admitted to writing fanfiction. Apparently, she already wrote 100k fanfiction and is working on her third one. She says it's writing practice and she loves it. I told her it's cringy and if she was serious about her book, she'd write it by now because she's pretty much already wrote 2 books if only they weren't fanfiction. She got silent and told me to leave her alone. When I introduced her to my family, I mentioned that she has a PhD. My brother and sister got impressed and asked about it. Abby tried to tell them but I interjected and told them to not be so impressed because she wastes her time writing silly fanfiction, so I don't know how she even got her doctorate. It was meant to be a joke, but Abby was angry. She called me an asshole, she wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day and asked me to drive her home. I tried to come in but she told me she wanted to be alone and write her fanfiction. I told her she was childish but left anyway. I haven't heard back from her since then and I told my sister and my sister agreed with Abby. I tried to call Abby but she texted me with asshole and nothing else. My sister thinks I owe Abby an apology but I don't think I did anything wrong and yet Abby is annoyed. Was I really the asshole here? I'm 5 months pregnant and told my family a few weeks ago. My sister wasn't happy for me and told me she was concerned about my geriatric pregnancy. I told her I'm under 40, and it isn't a geriatric pregnancy, and that I didn't need her concern, because my OBG and I had it covered. She still wasn't happy for me, but it is what it is. At Easter dinner, she again referred to my pregnancy as geriatric when talking to the family, and I again corrected her. She said, sorry, but if you are over 35, it's geriatric. Other people weighed in, mostly disagreeing with her. She pulled up an article on her phone saying 35 and over is a geriatric pregnancy. My aunt laughed and said that is idiotic. She said at this rate everyone will be either too young or too old to have children, since 20s is too young and 30s is too old. My sister said that she's using the scientifically accurate term, and it isn't her fault if it upsets me. I said, well, you can fuck off with your scientifically accurate term, because we all know you are just trying to make me feel bad. Someone changed the topic, but she didn't talk to me the rest of that Sunday. The next couple days, she sent me several links to articles about geriatric pregnancies, so I blocked her. My mom called me this morning and asked if I blocked my sister. I said I did temporarily, because she was spamming me. My mom said, grow up and make nice with your sister. What you did, using profanity on a holy day, was just as bad. You're going to be a mother, act like one. Was I the asshole, and do I owe my sister an apology?